Colton Walsh is going to do great things as our new regional operations director. My name is Bryce Anderson. I'm 47. Logan Walsh just handed 6 years of my work to his 25-year-old son who'd been here 4 months. This was it. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and broken promises. Everyone clapped. I clapped too. Had to. Colton smiled like he'd earned something. Fresh Stanford MBA. 0 real experience. Nothing. Logan stood there grinning at his boy, his golden child. Everyone knew it. Nobody talked about it. Bryce has been invaluable getting Colton up to speed, Logan said, like that made it better. Like 6 years of perfect reviews and 60-hour weeks was just preparation for his kid. I nodded, happy to help. The meeting ended. People shook Colton's hand. I gathered my stuff. Moved slow. My head was clear now. Like when you wake up at 3 a.m. and suddenly know exactly what's been eating at you for months. Logan caught my arm. Bryce, stick around. We stood alone. He loosened his tie, tried to look apologetic. Logan was 49, soft around the middle, hair thinning on top. Got his position when the previous regional manager retired early. Same pattern he just pulled with Colton. I know this might surprise you, he said, but Colton brings fresh perspectives to the role. Innovation. You understand, right? Nothing personal. I looked at him. I understand perfectly. He relaxed. Good. You're valuable here, Bryce. Really valuable. Valuable. Not valuable enough for the promotion I've been working toward since 2018. Valuable enough to train his replacement. I walked back to my desk. The office buzzed with normal activity. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, people solving problems, same as always. But everything felt different now, like watching a movie of your own life. I opened my laptop and stared at the screen. Then I started typing. Started at Apex Industrial Solutions in March 2018, right after my divorce was finalized. Needed a fresh start. Supply chain logistics across the Southwest seemed solid, something to build on. Steady work that paid $68,000 and let me sleep at night. Logan hired me himself. Shook my hand, said they needed someone with my background. I'd spent 15 years at my previous company before corporate restructuring eliminated my department. At 41, starting over wasn't fun. But Logan made it sound promising. We're expanding fast, he said during my interview. Lots of opportunities for advancement for the right people. I became the right guy. Worked weekends when shipments were delayed, stayed late when clients had emergencies, managed supply chain crises across 5 states. Built relationships with vendors from Phoenix to Denver. The first year was rough, learning new systems, new clients, new procedures. But I caught on quick. Had to. My daughter Ashley was 11, still adjusting to the divorce. Her mom had remarried an accountant who worked regular hours and coached soccer. I was the dad trying to prove he could provide stability. Ashley visited every other weekend. Smart kid, noticed when I looked tired. Sometimes she'd find me at the kitchen table Sunday mornings, laptop open, responding to work emails. Dad, it's the weekend, just catching up, building something good here. She'd roll her eyes, but she understood. Kids are resilient like that, adapt to whatever normal their parents create. Performance reviews were perfect every year. Logan always smiled, always hinted at bigger things. Your management material, Bryce, just be patient. Patient. I was good at being patient. Had $1,200 in alimony payments every month that reminded me why patience was necessary. Ashley needed new clothes, school supplies, eventually a car. College was coming. Patience paid the bills. By year 3, I was handling our biggest accounts. Brooks Industries, Summit Equipment, Desert Freight Solutions. Logan started including me in management meetings. Talked about succession planning. The regional director position would open up when Henderson retired in a few years. You'll be ready, Logan said. Just keep doing what you're doing. I kept doing what I was doing. Built stronger relationships with clients, streamlined our vendor network, implemented new tracking systems that saved the company $200,000 annually. Logan took credit for the innovations during board meetings. I didn't mind. Team effort, he said. Ashley turned 16. Started talking about college. Pre-med, maybe. Smart enough for it. Grades were excellent. But pre-med meant expensive schools, private universities. The regional director salary would make that possible. When I mentioned the possible promotion to Ashley last year, she got excited. My dad's going to be a director, she told her friends. Now she's 18, starting college in the fall, and I'd have to explain why that wasn't happening. First sign of trouble showed up 8 months ago. Logan mentioned his son might join the company. Smart kid, just finished his MBA at Stanford. I nodded. Thought nothing of it. Companies hire graduates all the time. Start them at entry level. Let them learn from the ground up. But Colton didn't start at the bottom. Started in the office next to Logan's with the title Supply Chain Specialist and a salary I could only guess at. Logan introduced him around like visiting royalty. Colton's going to observe our processes, learn how we operate. Colton observed by sitting in my client calls, taking notes while I explained vendor negotiations. Asked questions that showed he didn't understand the basics of logistics. Nice enough kid, polite, called me sir even though I told him Bryce was fine. But watching him fumble through basic concepts while knowing his last name was Walsh made something twist in my stomach. This wasn't about merit, never had been. I trained him because that's what you do. Help the new person, even when the new person's last name guarantees his success, even when his father signs your paychecks, even when you start to suspect where this is heading. The confirmation came 4 weeks ago. I stayed late finishing quarterly reports, going through supplier performance metrics, regional efficiency numbers. The office was empty except for the cleaning crew, just me and the hum of fluorescent lights. I headed to the break room for coffee when I heard voices from Logan's office. The door was cracked open. The hallway carried sound better than people realized. The board's going to ask questions, Logan was saying. Colton's only been here 4 months. Deeper voice, older. Parker Stevens from corporate. You said Bryce was ready for the regional director position. Bryce is solid, but Colton's family, and he's got the MBA credentials. The board likes fresh blood, younger perspectives. What about Bryce's experience? Logan chuckled. Not cruel, not kind either. Bryce is a good worker, dependable, but he's not executive leadership material. He'll keep doing what he's doing, make decent money, everyone wins. I stood in that hallway for 30 seconds, listening to them plan my future. Colton would get Henderson's old position, the same position I'd been preparing for since 2018. I'd train him, support him, pretend to be grateful. Bryce won't cause problems, Logan continued. He's got a daughter starting college, alimony payments. He needs this job. He'll go along with it. Go along with it like I was some kind of company property, like 6 years of loyalty had earned me the right to be grateful for whatever they decided to give me. I walked away quietly, didn't want them to hear my footsteps. Went back to my desk, saved my work, left the building, drove home in complete silence. Couldn't sleep that night, kept thinking about Logan's words. My ex-wife used to say I was too accommodating. You let people take advantage of you, Bryce. Stand up for yourself once in a while. Maybe she'd been right all along. That weekend, Ashley came over for dinner. She was excited about college, talking about dorm rooms and meal plans. The conversation turned to finances. Dad, you sure we can afford State University? I could look at community college for the first 2 years. We'll make it work, sweetheart. Things are looking up at work. The promotion? Something like that. She smiled, trusting. Ashley had never doubted that hard work paid off. Why would she? I'd never given her reason to think otherwise. Monday morning, I came to work different, watched Colton more closely, noticed how Logan included him in management meetings while keeping me focused on day-to-day operations. Saw how other supervisors started running decisions past Colton that should have come to me. The transformation was subtle but deliberate. Colton's office got an upgrade. Better chair, second monitor, conference table for small meetings. My office stayed the same. The message was clear to anyone paying attention. I started documenting everything. Every time Logan bypassed me for Colton, every decision that should have involved the operations manager but didn't. Not because I planned to file complaints, because I wanted to understand the pattern. The pattern was simple. Logan was slowly shifting authority from me to Colton without officially changing titles. By the time the promotion announcement came, Colton would already be doing the director's job. I'd just be the guy who knew where everything was filed. 3 weeks into this new dynamic, I had lunch with Ashley. She was visiting from her mom's place, needed to sign some college paperwork. You look tired, Dad. Long week, big project at work. The promotion thing still happening? I hesitated. Ashley was smart, too smart to lie to for much longer. We'll see how it plays out. She studied my face. Dad, you've been saying that for months. Either they're promoting you or they're not. It's complicated. It's really not. You've been there 6 years. You know the business better than anyone. If they don't promote you, they're idiots. Simple logic from an 18-year-old. Why couldn't I see it that clearly? That afternoon, I called my college buddy Rick Martinez. He'd moved into corporate consulting after years in logistics. We hadn't talked in months, but Rick was plugged into industry gossip. Bryce, good to hear from you. How's Apex treating you? Can't complain. Listen, you hear anything about management changes in our sector? Companies bringing in young blood? Rick laughed. You mean nepotism? It's everywhere, man. Family businesses especially. Why? You dealing with something? Maybe. Hypothetically, if someone with 15 years experience got passed over for the boss's kid, what would you do? Hypothetically? Update the resume and start networking. Experience matters in this industry. Companies that prioritize family over competence don't last long. And their clients follow competent managers. Always have, always will. You built those relationships, not the company. That conversation planted seeds. I started thinking beyond Apex, started remembering that my value existed independent of Logan's recognition. 2 weeks later, the announcement meeting happened. Colton Walsh, Regional Operations Director. I clapped with everyone else, smiled when Logan talked about my invaluable training support, nodded when Colton thanked me for my mentorship. But inside, something had shifted. The overheard conversation, Ashley's simple logic, Rick's advice about client loyalty. It all crystallized into clarity. I wasn't trapped, I was choosing to stay trapped. That evening I called Ashley. How did the work thing go today? They gave the promotion to someone else. Someone more qualified? Someone named Walsh. Silence on the phone. Then, Dad, that's his son, isn't it? Yeah. That's nepotism. That's illegal. Not illegal, just unfair. So what are you going to do about it? Good question. What was I going to do about it? I don't know yet. Dad, you've been working there since I was in middle school. You've given them everything. If they don't appreciate that, maybe they don't deserve you. Wisdom from my daughter. When had she gotten so smart? You're right. Maybe they don't. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for an hour, just thinking about loyalty and fairness and what I owed to whom, about Ashley's college fund and Logan's assumptions, about the difference between being dependable and being taken for granted. By the time I went to bed, I knew what I was going to do. Not the details, not the timeline, but the direction was clear. Monday morning, I walked into Apex Industrial Solutions for what I didn't know would be my last month as an employee. Everything was about to change. I submitted my resignation letter at exactly 4:45 p.m. Friday. Logan had just returned from giving Colton a tour of the warehouse, showing him what he called his new territory. I knocked on his door, handed him the envelope. This is my 2-week notice. Logan's face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, then something that looked like panic. He tore open the envelope. Read it quickly. Is this a joke? No, sir. You can't be serious. You're leaving because Colton got the promotion? I stayed quiet. Let him fill the silence. Logan stood up, paced behind his desk. Bryce, let's be reasonable here. You're upset. I get it. But walking away from 6 years of building your reputation here, that's not smart. I've made my decision. What about Ashley? Your responsibilities? There it was. The leverage he thought he had. The reason I'd fall in line and keep quiet. I'll figure it out. Logan's tone changed, got harder. You realize how this looks, right? Quitting because you didn't get promoted. It's unprofessional, childish. I can see how you'd think that. I won't give you a good reference. You understand that? Walking out like this, leaving us in a bind. No company's going to want someone who throws tantrums when things don't go their way. 6 years of perfect performance, and now I was throwing tantrums. 6 years of staying late and working weekends, and now I was unprofessional. That's your choice. Logan sat back down. Tried a different approach. Look, Bryce, I like you. You're good at what you do. But Colton brings something different. Youth, energy, fresh ideas. Fresh ideas, I repeated. The board wants innovation. New thinking. Colton represents the future of this company. And what do I represent? Logan paused. Experience. Reliability. Those are valuable too. Valuable enough to train my replacement. Not valuable enough to promote. Don't do this, Bryce. Take the weekend. Think it over. Come back Monday and we'll pretend this conversation never happened. He actually believed I would back down. Believed that threatening my reference would make me fold. I'll finish out my 2 weeks, train Colton on anything he needs to know. Logan's face darkened. You'll train him? You think Colton needs training from someone who quits when things don't go his way? He's going to need to understand the vendor contracts, the emergency protocols, the client relationships, unless you plan to figure all that out yourself. That hit home. Logan knew he didn't understand the technical side of logistics. Neither did Colton. They needed me for at least 2 more weeks. Fine, 2 weeks. But don't expect any favors after that. Don't expect me to help you land somewhere else. You're burning bridges here, Bryce. I nodded and turned to leave. Bryce, Logan called after me. You're making a mistake. A big one. I stopped at the door. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. I updated my resume, reached out to old contacts, started making quiet inquiries about opportunities in the Southwest logistics market. The response surprised me. Rick Martinez called back within 2 hours. Bryce, you're serious about looking? Because I just heard about an opening at Frontier Logistics Group. Regional director position. Phoenix-based, but covers your territory. Tell me more. Hunter Phillips is their regional manager. Good guy, built that company from nothing. They've been trying to break into heavy freight logistics for 2 years. Someone with your client base would be gold for them. I'd be interested in talking. I'll set something up. But Bryce, don't mention this to anyone at Apex. Industry's smaller than people think. Monday morning brought some interesting developments. I arrived early as usual and found Colton already at his desk, looking overwhelmed. He had spreadsheets open on 2 monitors and was frantically taking notes from vendor emails. Morning, Colton. How's the transition going? He looked up, relief flooding his face. Bryce, thank God. I've been here since 6:30 trying to understand the Brooks Industries account. Their logistics manager is threatening to pull their contract if we don't resolve some delivery issue by noon. Brooks Industries, our biggest client. They handled $2.8 million in freight annually. I'd been managing their account personally for 5 years, building the relationship through reliable service and understanding their complex delivery requirements. What's the issue? Something about delayed equipment shipments from our Phoenix hub, but I can't figure out which shipments and their emails are confusing. I looked at Colton's screen. He had Brooks's email open, but he was also looking at delivery schedules that had nothing to do with equipment shipments. He was drowning. Colton, did your father brief you on the Brooks relationship? He said you'd handled the handover, but then he mentioned your situation, and I thought maybe I should figure it out myself. Show some initiative. My situation. That's what they were calling it now. I spent the next 4 hours walking Colton through the Brooks account, explained how their just-in-time delivery system worked, why they needed equipment delivered within specific windows, how their distribution centers would shut down if we missed deadlines, showed him the backup carrier network I'd built over 5 years. This is incredibly complex, Colton said as we finished resolving the crisis. How do you keep track of all these details? Experience and good documentation systems. Could you show me your documentation? That's when I realized something important. Logan hadn't just promoted Colton without preparation. He'd promoted him without understanding what the job actually required. Colton wasn't incompetent, but he was completely unprepared for the scope of regional logistics management. Over lunch, I called Hunter Phillips at Frontier Logistics. We arranged a meeting for Thursday. Off-site, discreet, professional courtesy while I finished my notice period. The afternoon brought another crisis. Summit Equipment's procurement manager called, upset about a shipping delay that would cost them a production day. Colton took the call but transferred it to me within 5 minutes. I handled it like I'd handled hundreds before, made calls to 3 different carriers, found alternative routing, had their equipment delivered by 4 p.m. Crisis averted. Colton watched me work. You make it look easy. It's not easy. It's just experience. How long does it take to build relationships like that? Years. I saw something in his face then. Not arrogance or entitlement. Fear. The kid was starting to understand what he'd inherited. By Wednesday, word was spreading. People noticed the tension between Logan and me. Noticed Colton's struggles with basic operations. The rumor mill started grinding. My phone buzzed with text messages from colleagues, industry contacts, people I'd worked with over the years. The consensus was clear. Good people were watching. Opportunities existed. Loyalty went both ways in this business. Thursday arrived faster than expected. My interview with Hunter Phillips was Thursday morning at a coffee shop near the airport, away from prying eyes. Hunter was 45, built like someone who'd worked warehouses before moving to management. Firm handshake, direct eye contact. Bryce, Hunter said as we sat down. Rick Martinez speaks highly of you, says you're the best logistics manager in the Southwest. Rick's generous with his praise. Maybe, but numbers don't lie. I've been watching Apex's performance metrics for 2 years. Your territory consistently outperforms every other region. That's not luck. Hunter offered me the position of Southwest Regional Director at Frontier Logistics Group. the exact title Logan had given to Colton. The salary was 38% higher than what I'd been making at Apex, from $68,000 to $94,000. The benefits were better, and most importantly, they wanted me to bring my professional relationships with me. We've been trying to expand into heavy freight logistics, Hunter explained. Your relationships with Brooks Industries, Summit Equipment, and Desert Freight would be invaluable. It was completely ethical. Standard industry practice. Clients followed logistics managers they trusted, especially in a relationship-based business like freight coordination. I hadn't signed a non-compete agreement, and the clients I'd served were free to choose their carriers. I'd need to give Apex my 2 weeks' notice, of course. Professional courtesy, though I suspect they might release you early once they understand the situation. Hunter was right about that. Friday afternoon, Logan called me into his office again. Colton sat in the corner looking miserable. Apparently, word of my Thursday interview had reached them. Industry networks talk. I hear you're interviewing with competitors, Logan said. I'm exploring opportunities. While you're still employed here, that's a conflict of interest. It's also corporate espionage, sharing proprietary information with competitors. I haven't shared any proprietary information. Your client relationships are proprietary. My client relationships are professional. I built them over 6 years of reliable service. Logan's face was red now. Those clients belong to Apex Industrial Solutions. You take them with you and we'll sue you for everything you're worth. Colton spoke up from the corner. Dad, maybe we should— Shut up, Colton. Logan didn't take his eyes off me. Bryce, you walk out that door and try to steal our clients, I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. I stood up slowly. Logan, I've given you 6 years of my career. Perfect performance reviews. 60-hour weeks. I trained your son to take the job you promised me. I've been nothing but professional through this entire process. And now you're threatening me. I'm protecting my business. I'm finishing my 2 weeks and moving on to a better opportunity. What happens after that depends on how you handle the transition. Logan leaned back in his chair. We'll see about that. I walked to the door, then turned back. Colton, if you need help with anything over the next week, just ask. Despite what your father thinks, I want you to succeed. Colton nodded gratefully. Logan glared. I spent my last week at Apex documenting everything Colton would need to know. Not because Logan deserved it, but because Colton was 25 years old and had been thrown into a situation beyond his control. The people who depended on our logistics network deserved better than chaos. On Tuesday, Brooks Industries' procurement manager called with another crisis, equipment delay that would shut down production. Colton took the call but looked helpless within minutes. I resolved it in 2 hours. Made 6 calls, found alternative routing, kept their assembly line running. Standard problem solving for someone with experience. Afterward, Colton pulled me aside. Bryce, I don't think I can do this. You can learn. But it takes time. How much time? Years. I saw real fear in his eyes then. Not arrogance, not entitlement. Just a 25-year-old kid realizing he was in over his head. On my final day, I cleaned out my desk, said goodbye to coworkers, and handed Logan my security badge. This isn't over, Logan said. For me it is, I replied. I walked out of Apex Industrial Solutions feeling lighter than I had in years. The vindication came 7 months later, but not in the way I'd expected. I was settling into my new role at Frontier Logistics when Hunter Phillips called me into his office with a grin on his face. Bryce, you need to see this, he said, sliding a trade magazine across his desk. The headline read, Apex Industrial Solutions Southwest Division loses major accounts. Management changes blamed. The article detailed how Apex had lost 3 major accounts in 6 months, including Brooks Industries and Summit Equipment. Revenue in the Southwest region was down 58%. The board had launched an investigation into management practices. Logan Walsh was terminated 2 weeks ago, Hunter said. Apparently, the board discovered that Colton Walsh had been promoted without proper qualifications. They're calling it a nepotism investigation. I read further. Colton had resigned voluntarily after 4 months of struggling with accounts he couldn't manage. He'd enrolled in a supply chain management program at Arizona State. According to the article, Logan faced a potential lawsuit from Brooks Industries for breach of contract after a logistics failure caused a distribution delay that cost them $1.6 million. Here's the interesting part, Hunter continued. 2 of their remaining major clients have already reached out to us, specifically asking if you're available to handle their accounts. The article mentioned that several former Apex employees had been recruited by competitors, taking their institutional knowledge with them. No names were listed. but I recognized the pattern. When good people leave a company, others notice. What goes around comes around, Hunter said. Logan Walsh spent 6 years taking you for granted. Now he's unemployed while you're building our Southwest operation. I folded the magazine and handed it back. I feel bad for Colton. Kid got thrown into a situation he wasn't ready for. Colton will be fine. He's young. He'll learn from this. A year later, I was driving through Tucson on business when I stopped for lunch at a diner near the airport. Colton Walsh was sitting alone in a corner booth reading a textbook. He looked up when I approached. "Bryce, what are you doing here?" "Business trip. Mind if I sit?" He gestured to the empty seat across from him. Colton looked older, more serious. The textbook was Logistics Management. Back in school, master's program at Arizona State, Supply Chain Focus. He smiled ruefully. Figured I should actually learn what I was supposed to be doing. "That's smart." "I wanted to thank you," Colton said, "for how you handled everything. You could have left me hanging, but you didn't. You tried to help me succeed. You were in an impossible situation. Dad still blames you for everything. Says you sabotaged the company." I sipped my coffee. "What do you think?" Colton closed his textbook. "I think I was 25 years old with an MBA and no real-world experience. I think Dad gave me a job I wasn't qualified for because I was family. And I think you spent 6 years earning a promotion that should have been yours." We sat quietly for a moment. "I'm sorry about how everything went down," Colton said. "You deserved better." We both did. "But sometimes things work out the way they're supposed to." Colton nodded. "I heard you're doing well at Frontier." "I am. And you'll do well too, once you're ready." I paid for both our lunches and shook Colton's hand before leaving. He was a good kid who'd been used as a pawn in his father's game. 6 months later, Logan Walsh filed for bankruptcy after losing his wrongful termination lawsuit against Apex's board of directors. Colton graduated with honors and landed an entry-level position at a freight company in Denver, where he spent 18 months learning the business from the ground up before earning his first promotion. The son had learned what the father never understood, that respect and advancement must be earned, not inherited. That evening, I called Ashley at college. She was finishing her freshman year, thriving in pre-med coursework. "Dad," she said, "I'm proud of how you handled everything. You finally stood up for yourself. Your mom would say it is about time." Mom was right about a lot of things, but she was wrong about you being too nice. You're not too nice. You just believe in doing things the right way. Sometimes the right way takes longer, but it lasts longer too. Sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and building something better. Ashley understands that now, so do I.